When I say let's start with you. Now I've got some stuff I can add in, but do we have any requests? And I think that last practice, we focused very much on lower back and on hips, but the whole human body, anything at all that people would like to tap into. Fire away. Okay. Tight hammies, tight quads. Okay. Hamstrings and quads, not a problem. Happy to go there. Anyone else? Or any other area you Perry? Lower right back. Okay. Very good. So we'll get in lower back. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we got that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Adriana, anything, or Nicole, anything for either of you? Okay. Good stuff. Sweet. All right, let's do this thing then. Okay, so to start, let's actually start reclined. And again, I'm going to be honest with you. This literally was what I came into the room and it was sitting here. And Krista was probably practicing before me. We all know what, I think probably this is this foam roller, and I'm not suggesting you all run into the other room even if you had one, or worse, to the store to get one, but it's a nice tool if you do have one, and I just wanted to show a nice way, a way that I use it that's nice as a way of relaxing. I'm going to go on the assumption you don't have this, so after I talk my way through this, or our way through this, and kind of lay back and show it to you, you can be in whatever reclined position works for you, okay? Certainly, if we're talking about low back and you had a pillow, okay, so I'm gonna reach here for this yoga bolster, and I'll come back to the foam roller. And you're to snug that that pillow right up to your sitting bones. So knees bent, feet sort of on the floor in that area, and then snug that up. Okay, and you can even use your heels to really kind of hold it and bring it in, and then allow yourself to come down. Allow your thumbs, kind of give yourself 2 thumbs up to take your shoulders out and open. And the wrists can face up to the ceiling, and then you can certainly extend the legs. And that little rise that we've created here in our legs is going to have a salutary effect for most of us in terms of allowing things to relax and release a little bit in our low back. Okay? And just connecting with the breath as you do that. Now I'm going to move around a little bit. You don't need to. All I was going to say is to bring back this foam roller is that I like this. This is obviously a fair bit more tippy. So I'm coming up to sit on the foam roller. And then I'm actually going to use my hands just on the other side for support and lay back. And you have to scooch so that it catches the back of your head. And then same process, okay? Feet are flat on the floor this time. 2 thumbs up, roll out, and then really letting the shoulders kind of roll off the edges of the roller. So kind of a parallel position to using the bolster. Again, you don't need either of these. Simply taking this first couple of minutes as we practice to connect with your breath. Not to wipe the day away, by the way. Often we say, let's just leave what came before and dedicate the time for right now. Well, maybe that's possible and maybe it's not. I mean, you are worth it. You can definitely take this time. Whatever you drop for right now, you can certainly pick it back up after, maybe with a slightly different perspective or a little bit more patience and space. Again, I'm just going to shift my position because I just wanted to kind of demo that to give you an alternative. Should also say that for anyone with tight calves, or sorry, tight hamstrings and quads, the foam roller, although it's not, if we could get into the yoga weeds here, or the movement weeds, and the debates about whether rolling your muscles is good or bad or somewhere in between. I'm going to remain agnostic on that question for today and simply say, if it feels good, who doesn't need more of that? And I kind of like it, so Sue, that might be something for you as well, okay? From your reclined position, we're going to change things up a little bit. So if we're fully shavasana, okay, corpse pose, what I'm going to actually ask you to do now is on your next inhale, and it's going to just be a nice super slow long inhale. Bring your feet and legs up, allow the knees to bend, and then allow the feet to hover just like what feels like an inch. And I actually don't know how close I am. Oh, they're there. Okay, I was kind of testing the ground, like seeing where I would make contact. And just noting where the work is happening in your body. I was going to say in your legs, but you could also be compensating in some way that I can't see because I'm reclined and because we're on Zoom. And just notice that, again, for me, it's my hip flexors, so the very front, up where the hips or the upper legs meet the pelvis, meet the torso. And obviously, I hope it goes without saying, if you're suspended here and this is like now shrieking agony, allow your feet to come down. And even press the feet in and let your bum rise almost, and even if it doesn't come up off the mat, just the feeling of like it's going to come up. And notice that that takes a little bit of work into your hamstrings and perhaps a little bit of relief in the front of the thigh. And then you can set your hips down. So like for me there, I don't even think I was maybe half an inch. Like my bum was actually just off of the mat, but my clothes were still, like my shorts were still touching. So very, very minute movement. Allow your hips and everything to settle. Take an inhale. And on the exhale, let the weight of your whole midsection drop down into the earth. Accept the support that's there. Okay? Inhale, lift your feet. And this time you're moving in the opposite direction. Before we were coming in and then kind of guesstimating by feel, okay, our sense of spatial awareness, where the floor was that time. The second time you're lifting up. So you know exactly where you are and you can be a bit more precise. Not that precision is what we're aiming for here. Okay. Try to avoid, if it's, you notice it happening, if you notice your kind of belly ballooning and you're arching your back, that's a compensation pattern. And what we don't want to do is actually like ground our spine into the mat. We want to keep a natural, normal curve, but we also don't want to kind of arch to avoid holding the weight up with our legs. And when it feels right, so it may have already happened, or it may happen now, or it may happen in a couple of breaths, allow the legs to come down. And just, again, that feeling of lifting, almost like a mini bridge, but you're not even coming into it. And notice where the work is. Notice how that kind of changes things up. And then from there, allow your hips to come down. And again, you could continue that. That could be 3 rounds, that could be 4, that could be 5. It's a nice, gentle way of warming into the practice right in the center of our body. Let's take the left heel forward, okay? And really stretch it so that it feels like the toes, and again, this is gonna be very small movements. I kind of like doing this. I'm, in fact, as I cue you through and as I'm moving, I've got my eyes closed. Okay, so I'm not actually like looking to see, are my toes coming toward my face? Okay, doesn't matter. It's just with the feeling of the toes coming slightly toward the sound of my voice and the heel pressing out towards you, toward the camera, okay? So we can really stretch out, and you might even press the heel and kind of drag it back toward you a little bit, okay? Which it's not gonna move, it's just gonna kind of grab the floor or grab the mat. And then, yeah, just, let that all kind of settle. And then both hands wrap the right knee and hug it in any amount, okay? Now this might be just like the foot is barely off the floor and you almost have to like come up to like catch the knee. That's cool. Or hug it in. And then let it out on your exhale. And now we're gonna do this a couple of times, or maybe let's do 2 more times. As you inhale and hug that right knee in, so not a huge movement, notice any compensatory patterns in the other side of your body. In other words, if you really had your heel, maybe even your calf, certainly your glute on the left, grounded into the mat, notice that the more you hug that leg in on the right, the left kind of wants to help out. And what we want to do is keep it quiet. Let it just chill out there. Press the heel forward on the left. Bring the toes toward your face ever so slightly, and then hug the right leg and knee in. Okay, and then what we're going to do is just gently release a little bit. Okay, undo, take the left hand off of the knee. Bring the left knee up to meet the right, and then you might have one hand kind of at the front of each knee. You may wrap and hug both knees in. And here we can actually get into, this is where if you wanted to modify, you could certainly reach for the outside edge of one foot and then the other, and we're in happy baby, and you can kind of harness that. Happy baby likes to play, likes to roll, okay? But also you can do this in this bound version of a flipped upside down child pose. That's all this is. And slowly rolling. Now you can harmonize this with your breath, like inhaling to come up and then exhaling to move over. And if that's too slow, you can just, be with it. Just breathe and move. And you've got kind of your elbows and your upper arms to catch you if you were to go too far, like if you lost your balance. Okay. And then come back in. And then if you've got your legs both hugged right in tight, allow your knees to come forward, still holding, okay? So that your sacrum, so that bone, that triangle of bone at the base of your spine is likely now making better contact than it was a moment ago. I don't mean better, positive or negative, I mean just more fully, okay? And then from there, you can even like drop the feet if you want, or you can keep them up. I like kind of keep them up and just little circles with the knees. And hug and squeeze the legs together. So we've got a couple of things going on. We're getting a little relaxation here in the low back, switch directions, but you're also getting that strength building through the thighs connecting to one another, almost like they're glued, okay? And then we're going to allow the right leg to extend. You can actually let the left foot just drop down, let the legs relax. Take the right toes down, ever so slightly towards your face. You might make contact with, so my right thigh is not contacting the mat. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, right? Depends on the length, the size, the situation, what's going on. Are you on carpet, or are you on a mat? But right now I've got the back of my right heel, the back of my right calf, and then the knee and the hamstrings are not touching, and then it contacts back with my bum, my hip, okay? So just notice where you're making contact, really pressing the heel forward. And one, you're gonna get a couple of, again, complementary things. One, you may notice if the toes come back is that this kind of set of muscles here, okay, which are tibialis, okay, so tibialis anterior, the front of your leg, okay, are turning on. And that's a good thing, by the way, because for many of us, Oh dear. For many of us, hopefully I don't lose battery there. For many of us, what will happen is this muscle actually is fairly weak, and so we want to strengthen it. The other nice effect is that you may actually get a stretch into the calf, okay? So leg is out, and then hug the left knee in, and notice, again, the tendency to want to compensate. And instead, just let it be what it's going to be. Especially when we are moving into a stretch. Well, really, if we're moving into a strength-based movement or a stretch, whether it's very active or it's very passive, we don't want to force it, okay? The whole mentality of, I'm going to get on the mat and stretch out here for a few minutes and everything's going to be all better, I don't know how helpful that is. Keep breathing. Only because, you know, it sets up unrealistic expectations perhaps for us. And, you know, you get a little disappointed. Well, heck, I've been here for half an hour and I'm not feeling any relief. Well, a practice, let's let the leg go and let it come down and the other foot can come onto the mat. I'll continue that thought momentarily. Feet step together and then, so knees are together, and then step one foot out a little bit wider, step the other foot out, and let both knees and legs just kind of fall in toward one another. Okay? Constructive rest pose. It may even feel like up at the top, okay, so where the kind of crease where each of your thighs meets your body, the feeling of that slightly turning in, okay, toward your pubic bone or toward the crease of where your thighs meet. Now this is not meant to be, you know, hugely muscular action. What we're really trying to do is just create a sort of tripod here with our legs, where they'll hold themselves up without a whole lot of action on our part. Now, this is constructive rest pose. Okay, and so in constructive rest is speaking exactly to the point I was making a moment ago, which is that we want to give support, give some caring to our bodies, not trying to make instant change, okay? The change is going to happen slowly over time and repeated practice. Now, constructive rest, normally, you know, we can have our arms out and kind of just the turned out shoulders like as if we were in corpse pose. But let's try this. Sweep, if you've got room for this, sweep your arms up. And maybe, and obviously, if you get to a point where your arms or your shoulders get creaky or cranky or they're not liking this movement, then you've gone exactly as far as you need to go. Or maybe you've gone a little too far and then you can just back off. But otherwise, just notice tracing here. Can you keep your arms on the floor? Can you keep your chin tucked down toward your chest rather than just kind of up toward the ceiling to try to compensate, like lifting everything up, okay? Can you drag the arms up maybe so high that the tips of the thumb and the index finger meet? Maybe not. Okay? And notice, notice where you feel this. However far up you've gotten, I actually find like right now, I can feel this right way down by the low sides of my hips. So showing it to you there, Perry. This would be kind of low back, low hip area. Okay, and then we're gonna go into very of the moment. We've had some snow angels. So just sweep the arms down and then sweep them up. And as you do so, the focal point for you is less on the movement of the hands and arms. We're gonna just stay here for a few breaths. So let's kind of go another 3, 4, 5 rounds of this, okay? Really working the pinkies toward the sides of the body and then sweeping back up and inhale. Is notice the shoulder blades, the feeling of the shoulder blades rotating here as we move through this range of motion. And like I say, we're focused there, but we may be feeling this right through our kind of mid and even into the lower back and hip. Good. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to switch it up. You could continue with that, or what I'm going to do is actually bring both arms out to the side, elbows out, like pointing toward the walls on either side of your mat. And then bring your hands up, so palms are faced for me toward you, toward the camera, okay? Backs of your hands are kind of faced toward the wall behind you. And then let's see if, without kind of, again, having to arch your back or tip your chest up higher, can you simply rotate the arms back? Maybe the hands make contact, backs of the hands with the floor, maybe they don't. And then inhale and come up and forward, and can you internally rotate? Might be a little bit of a stickier, trickier move. Maybe the palms come down. This is one also, by the way, that is super duper if you're standing up against a wall or, a few inches away from a wall. It's a way of showing you where your range of motion is and just kind of giving you a chance to explore. Okay, and down. There we go. And then we're going to take options here. Do we want to get into some hip circles? Yes, we do. Okay, let's take, I'm going to actually start with the right leg. And today, rather than having the whole big extended leg here, like I've taken my foot up toward the ceiling, instead, I'm going to keep my right foot, the heel, as if it's on an imaginary chair seat. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is take that heel and move it around a clock face. Okay? Trying to keep, at least initially, the upper leg fairly still. Couple in one direction. And then a couple in another. And you're going to have some movement in your upper leg, but okay? And then, can you actually move the whole kit and caboodle? Circles. But we don't have all the weight of our leg way up in the air. This is a bit more of a gentler version, but you'll notice it doesn't take long. Switch directions. For this to become, quite warming, shall we say. One last one. Breathing your way through, not holding your breath, okay? And then that leg can come down, and opposite leg comes up, heel on the chair. Try to keep that upper leg still. Again, and you can do this, you can actually kind of peek and say like, am I still? Oh yeah, okay, I'm pretty still. Or just allow it to be what it is. Just feel your way through it. Notice again that opposite leg wanting to compensate. Switch directions. Last one, don't hold your breath. Breathe, breathe, breathe. And then the whole leg. So moving at the hip joint. Circle, circle, switch directions. Yes. And nice, okay. And then from here, what we're going to do is we're going to move into some stretches here. I'm looking your way, Sue. We're going to get into stretching our quads. So one way to do this is we're going to simply roll onto one side. Okay. Now, trick to this is where this will lose effectiveness, and you can see here I've actually taken my head into the palm of my right hand, but I'm going to just note I'm taking my elbow back in space. I want my body to be fairly linear. What we don't want is a big kind of like curl so that your head, and just go by that, if your head is way out in front of your feet, bring your head back so that it's roughly in line with your feet, in line with your shoulders, okay? One long line of the body. The reason is what we're going to do now is extend our left hip. I'm on my right side, so left hip. If you're on the other side, that's okay. It's just the opposite. We're just switching left and right. Okay? And play with me here. Notice if you're pushing, like actively pressing your side of your hip into the mat. Let's not do that so much, okay? A little hug up, away, all right? And then we're going to begin, the kind of normal, I think, inclination is to, as you bend the left knee, is to reach for the leg. Let's not do that. Instead, let's bring the knee back in space and try to kick your own bum. Whew, with your left heel, and you'll notice that there may be cramping, so feel free to straighten the leg, okay? Like this isn't going to be a long held motion, although you can build capacity here, okay? Try to kick your bum. Now what this is doing is not a quad stretch, by the way. Not exactly, not yet. This is a hamstring strengthener, and the reason I offer that, okay, I know you said stretching, or your RMT, I guess, or whoever said stretching. I have found that, at least in my body, and certainly some of the people I've worked with, that, and release, that you can get actually a fair bit, like stretching is good, it's great, static stretching, but it's not necessarily the whole picture. And I found that I've gotten a lot more relief in exactly these areas by building some strength work in, just moderate strength like that. So that little action right there, it doesn't look like much. If it doesn't feel like much, bring your knee back in space, and then it will feel like an incredible amount. Okay? And then release that again. And then we're going to inhale and bring the hand down, and it might catch the front of the foot or the ankle, and you can bring the knee as far back as feels comfortable, okay? Not bending forward, because really at that point you've taken all of the slack out of the front of the leg. Okay? And we'll release and just roll over to the other side. Okay? Same process. Check your alignment. And again, it can be bringing your head back, but it also could be swinging your feet and legs back. All right, there we go. Little tuck up so that the side of our hip is not making, pressing down. It's just kind of comfortable there. And then let's sweep the left foot back. Try to kick your own bum. Ooh, the first one is a doozy. Okay, so you can kind of ease into this. And when it feels too intense, let it go. And kick. Maybe move the knee back now as your body begins to warm up. See, the thing is, if you've got that sensation, okay, reaching now for the front of the leg and working the leg back. You have to remember, it's like gunning a car engine, right? We want to give our body a chance to see what's heading our way or what we're sending to it. Okay, and stretch that out and let that go. Now, like I said, I think I said last week when we were working kind of in the same area, that is a classic quadricep stretch for my money, okay? Not the best one, not because it's not a great stretch, but I find that more often than not, people have difficulty executing it in a way that is effective, okay? Which is not a compliment on anyone's practice, it's just a reality, right? Like it's a mobility thing. So, you got a couple of other options here, and I'm gonna just show them to you, and we'll say the level 1 option, which is is definitely more accessible, and then I'm gonna give you a second one using the wall, okay? Or if you have a couch or something nearby, that would also work, okay? In fact, that will be more accessible. So what we are going to do here is come up, okay? And this is gonna help us with hamstrings and quads as well, because we're gonna, you may wanna pad your knees, okay? So you may wanna have, if you've got a blanket or something, certainly that's a good thing. You can also just double up your mat, okay? So we're here like that. Just give yourself a little extra padding, okay? And then step into a low lunge, okay? Before you get super deep in the lunge, and your hands can certainly be down, or they can come up onto a knee, or they can be at your hips. In fact, let's bring them to your hips as long as that's not too unstable. If it is, you can also use a wall or a chair or something close by just to stabilize. Square those hips, okay? Tendency is going to be for the back leg to want to sort of drop back and out of the way. And you can even, let's do that, okay? So I've got my right leg behind me, and I'm gonna just kind of let it go slack. And you notice I kind of open up here a little bit. So I'm not like straight at you. What I want to do is take my hands to my hips and straighten, okay? And then from there, You can certainly lengthen that and lean forward. You can't go wrong with a low lunge simply because you're closing one hip and you're opening the other, right? And then we'll switch. And actually, see, I should practice what I'm cueing, which is to say start smaller, square, make sure you're aligned. Also notice your hips in relation to one another. I mean, the tendency would be that the back leg will feel a little bit lower anyway, just because the front one is literally raised. But try to equalize, try to drop the front hip, in this case it's my right hip, and raise the other. And then bring your knee back. And breathe. Okay. And now, we're going to go into round 2 of this, but before we do, here's a little hamstring stretch. And I say little because I mean little. What we're not going to do here, unless this is something that's comfortable for your body, and that is splits. It's not part of my practice. I don't have the capacity to do that, but this version, and look, you may want to have, this is where you would, just to balance, you might want to have a couple of blocks. Okay, I don't have them handy here, so and I can bring my hands down in any case, but bring your toes, okay, up, you're on your heel. Your knee can absolutely have a micro bend here, and then it's the feeling of dragging your heel back on the mat, but it doesn't move anywhere. And really breathing and feeling the back of the leg kind of relaxing. You hear that I'm giving it a little, I'll even kind of massage it. Yes. That's perfect. Yep, that's perfect. If you're here and you're already feeling it, then you're exactly where you want to be. When you get, I don't know who I'm kind of cribbing here, but one of the, I know who it is. It's Jill Miller. It's someone who uses tune-up balls to roll out muscles. That we kind of want to, the principle here is you want to get into the stretch until you feel something or until you stop feeling anything. So if you're already there, so you're feeling it, great, breathe there. If it stops feeling kind of like engaged, then it would be that feeling of that kind of drag back without moving. Does that make sense? Awesome, okay. And certainly because we didn't do it on the other side, I'm just going to switch legs. Same deal. I'm not going to get into the anatomical reasons why I personally don't love full splits anyway. You're asking your pelvis to do a lot of counteraction, but again, whatever floats your boat, whatever feels nice in your body. I like this half one anyway, it's nice. Okay, and there. Now you can, I'm gonna let you all listen to your body. I've just shown you a low lunge, and then the kind of counter stretch for the hamstrings, that little half split. So you can certainly go into that little combo a second time, or I'm going to give you the more, this is for your quads, and this is bigly, this is a deep release, okay? Which means that I want to emphasize here that if you're going to move into this, this pose is Sir Lancelot. Sometimes people, so weirdly to me, call it King Arthur pose. King Arthur was not the one being knighted, okay? He was the one knighting people, so he wouldn't have been on one knee. Just saying, being a stickler about this. So anyway, leaving all of that silliness aside, Sir Lancelot, okay, is a pose that we can do at the wall, or you can do this at a couch. And in fact, what I would suggest is if what I'm about to show you, if you try to come into it and it's just like, no way, no how, not happening, before you decide, I'm done with this, I'll never try it again, try this on a couch, and rather than having the front of, or the top of your foot flat against the wall like this, you'll see where I'm going in a second. Instead, you can actually let the foot rest on the top of the couch, and everything else that I'm taking you through here still works. It's just a less intense version. So I would say you can kind of start there and then you work up to this, okay? Or you're back in the low lunge half split that we were just in, okay? To set up here, what you're doing is you're definitely bringing a mat or some padding up to the wall. You can see I've kind of come up a few inches onto the wall. Oh, my battery's dying here. Okay, but I've still got 10%. We should be okay here. So we're going to bring the knee in. I brought my right knee in. And then I'm going to get out of the way so you can see this. What we don't want to do is sickle, like turn our foot in. Okay, instead we want to really press through the big toe, and you'll feel this on the outer line of the leg. Okay, and then the other, your hands are just down and you're here. And this is your starting point. Okay, and then over time, and certainly with a lot less speed than I'm currently moving at, you might eventually get into placing the left foot on the floor. That's already, now that is going to feel like a lot. Okay, right through the front of the hip. Okay, and then over time, the hands can come up. I actually haven't practiced this pose regularly, so we'll see how far I get. So right now, I'm feeling a lot. Okay, try to keep the chest quiet. In fact, and you can see, that's interesting. I haven't been here in a while. When I was practicing this regularly, I'd put my whole back on the wall, both shoulders, and just kind of hang out for 2-3 minutes. Okay, today, that is not happening. I'm feeling plenty right here. Okay, so it feels like your big toe is coming over to the opposite side of your body. Really press and kind of turn out so that the big toe almost feels like it's coming to the same side of the mat. And that's going to shift the stretch through the front of the thigh. And then you can come down, and you switch legs, leg up the wall, and whatever level of depth feels good. Yeah, see, I actually have more range of motion here, but I also have more pain on this side. Interesting. See, a lack of mobility or flexibility isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's sometimes when we get super open, we also get the pain that comes along with it. Okay, in any case, that's one that you can stay in for some time. You're gonna come out. And, all right, from there, one pose, and I'm really gonna very quickly demo, because if you know how to get into pigeon pose, then I'm gonna suggest you get into pigeon pose. But so that would just be, if you're in kind of hands and knees, like tabletop position, tuck your toes, bring your knees up, find yourself in a downward dog, and then you can simply step a knee forward, okay, point the toe, so the leg, you're not compromising the knee, and then you can come down onto the outer side of the leg and find the pose. But look, this is one, I really think for people who love it, they love it. And for people who want to love it, they pretend to love it. And they're often, almost doing violence to their bodies to try to get into this position. So that, that's a version of it. Certainly you can get into the other side. And I'm including this because I neglected to tape this on the recording I put out a couple of weeks ago, but we did practice this, is to put ourselves into a 90-90 position. So 90-90 refers to each kind of hip leg. So here's our first 90. I'm sitting on my left hip, left kind of outer left hip and bum. Knee comes out to the side of the mat. Again, it doesn't matter. I could also be turned this way, okay? Doesn't really matter how you're doing it exactly, or what direction you're turned in, but that's 190. And then you see here I'm more at like 45 with my back leg. So what I'm gonna do is try to take it back. And again, it's not about getting to 90-90, not at all. My right hip is up off the mat, okay? But we're here, and then I can take my hands and frame that left leg, which is my front leg now, and lower any amount. And guess what, friends? You're in a more, I would say, accessible version of pigeon pose. If in fact, all the feels that I get from pigeon, I can get here with a little bit less tweakiness and kind of, it's just more accessible, okay? You're there, by the way, if you take your hands and turn, I'm turning away from the camera, turn into the back hip, that can be interesting, just to give yourself a little action there. And then you can turn and bring both hands, as I have here, in front of the front leg, my left leg. And I even like to give myself a little spinal twist while I'm here, which is to keep, the way I do that is keep the left arm fairly straight, okay? And then allow my body to come down ever so slightly. Ooh, and I've got a nice little stretch through the left hip as well. And then we can switch, 90 on the other side. A little bit less technical in terms of setup this time. Find yourself in the position and lower. And that lower, you could be here for 5 breaths. You could be here for 10 breaths. Trust me, the longer you stay in, I'm actually cognizant, one, of not just leaving people in this for so long while we're practicing together, eating the time up that way, but this is a great place to be, right? In fact, you can either bring your head all the way down, or if your head doesn't come down to the ground and to the backs of your hands, this is where you could have like a pillow, for instance. And then you can like totally chill in here for a bit, okay? And then maybe turn into the back, the rear hip. Turn and give ourselves that little twist. Nice. Okay. Now, I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm shy of battery, and I apologize for that. But timing-wise, we're not too far off anyway. I'm going to take you through one more sequence before we come into recline. But and then this is just because I'll keep recording so that if we get cut off, it will be in the recording so that you can do that back and hip work on your own. You'll get, in other words, you'll get what I would be missing today. But what I would suggest is, and I'm not going to do it here because the picture is in the way, I'm actually going to just show you, in case we get cut off, our alternative pose. And I just really like this one, especially for the areas we've been focused on today. This is legs up the wall pose, okay? So you just come up to a wall, snug your hips in, lift the legs up, arms can come out into a T, and we're there, okay? So that's, again, we're not quite there in practice, but I'm just cognizant of the fact that if we're cut off, I don't want to leave you without that pose. So if and when that does happen, you just go, finish up whatever you're doing, listen to your body. What is it calling for? Okay? Is there something you haven't gotten to? Maybe it's something that we've practiced previously that we haven't done today. Honor that. Give yourself that. And then you've got that option. Okay? By the way, I should say also, when you are legs up the wall, it's an opportunity to kind of play with different shapes. In other words, you can take your legs wider. This is just a version of wide-legged forward fold. Okay? Or you can bring the feet together and have a legs up the wall butterfly pose, Baddha-Konasana. Okay? But before we get there, and who knows, maybe the battery will hold out, let's come back into that tabletop position that we were in before. Notice that we're not jamming the hands down, okay? Notice that if your toes are extended, okay, this is less stable. If you tuck your toes and have that little bit of support, that's more stable, okay? When I say don't jam the hands in, what I mean by that is, if you think about like flattening the palm of your hand and like jamming your wrist right in there, not so much. Instead, what we want is a little kind of cup or crease in our hand, including the wrist. Allow the finger bases to come down, and the finger, like the mid knuckles, allow them to actually pop up. Really connect through the index finger base, your thumb base, your pinky base. Okay, and make sure as you do all of this that your hands are roughly under your shoulders, and then turn your arms and shoulders out so the eyes of your elbows, your inner elbows, are going to turn forward. Okay, and notice that that position is inherently stronger. It's inherently more stable. Okay, opposite I'm actually going to do, and this is not a bad thing either, is just doing little bear crawls up and down the mat. Okay, I was actually, and you can do that with raised knees as well. This is a really nice one. Okay, but I was actually doing that just to give myself enough room that I was going to kick the wall. So hands roughly under shoulders, knees, you may have to step back a little bit, roughly under your hips. And then what we're going to do here, and I'm going to step you through this methodically. So going from sort of lowest level of engagement to more, okay? So let's inhale and bring the left leg up. Press out through your heel, just like we were doing when we were on our backs. Okay? And then knee comes forward and in towards your chin. You can kind of curl your back like you're in cat pose. And then press it out. And in. We're just going to do 3, but you could double that up. You could do as many as you want here. Come back. And then knee comes down. Other side. You notice the hands aren't changing position at all. Okay? Press out. You can just kind of look. Our toes down. Is everything straight? Yes. Hug in. Press out. And actually went inhale out. Exhale in. Inhale out. Last one. In and out. Good. And knee comes down. And then from here, we'll lift one arm. Well, actually, we're going to lift our left arm. Okay. So we're balancing there. You might want to even step your right hand a little bit more into the center of the mat. Okay. And then play with bringing the opposite leg up. And elbow comes toward knee. 1, 2, and exhale, 3. Hand goes down, and then like you are a dog looking for a fire hydrant, notice the tendency to dump into the opposite shoulder. So because I've got my right leg raised, bring your weight into the right hand rather than dumping into the left. Okay, you can be here, you can certainly straighten, and then allow the knee to come down, but don't place it down. Instead, kick the leg back and up, little donkey kick. And sweep and kick and sweep and kick and come down and lift back up into that fire hydrant. Good. And then allow yourself to come all the way down. Make a little pillow with your hands and step the leg out to the side. So a half frog pose. And just chilling out here. So you've done all of that, more engaged work, strength work, and then we can relax and just let things release into the mat. Okay? Again, if you want to get kind of fancy with it, and again, I would do this not on the floor, I would pad the knee, but you can also bring the sole of your foot up, however much will allow that to happen. So internally rotating that hip and then come down. You can kind of do that as a static hold or not, or do it in cycles. Bring that leg back, keep your pillow, and we're going to just move into our frog on the opposite side. So you decide, right? Like press the front of your right hip down into the mat. Option to raise, to kind of turn that leg and raise the foot up, or to kind of pump it, 1, 2, 3. Okay, or just relax as you were. And then bring that leg back. Bring both hands underneath you. Little press up. Step the knees up and the hands underneath. And then we'll inhale and raise the right hand. And the left foot. Squaring everything. And then exhale, elbow toward knee. Inhale, straighten everything out. And then hand drops and knee comes in and then sweep it up into that hydrant pose. Okay? Nice. And then allow it to drop and a little donkey kick and come in and sweep out. Hydrant. Donkey kick. Hydrant. And donkey kick. And then you can simply press back into a child's pose. Options here, you can have legs together, stretching your arms forward, or you can take your knees wide, creating some space for the body to come down. And again, this is another place where, if that doesn't feel great, because the floor is too far away, bring the floor to you, pillow, and you can just be here. And that could be your ending pose. Okay, certainly. So we're there. But since I previewed and since we haven't lost I haven't lost my battery, let's actually move toward the wall. Or actually this also works super well with a couch. The only difference would be that you would be snugging up like I am here, and then here, but rather than being constrained by the wall, you would allow the backs of your lower legs to make contact with the seat, or even a chair is going to work here, okay? Arms come out. And sigh. We're not trying to do anything here. There's nothing that you need to change or affect. So long as you're not in physical discomfort, there's no need to correct or to try to hit some perceived standard of what this is. Just relax. If you have a pal close by, a family member or someone, it can also feel really nice to have some weight. Now, mind you, weight that's not going to fall. So I have like yoga sandbags, but like any sort of weight placed on top of the feet, just to kind of ground and hold us all in together. And also, if you've got your yoga strap, which you could be using for the hip series, this is a nice place to actually just, again, if this is not if this is a move that you're going to find triggering, but to bind the legs, either the thighs or the low legs or both, just so that you're not having to exert the muscular effort to keep your legs in this position. And to come out of this pose, we can just kind of scrub our heels down on the wall, just like, oh yeah, put the feet on the wall, and then allow ourselves to tip over. You can kind of chill there for a second, and then press up. And since I've got the bolster close by, I'm going to use it just to raise my hips up ever so slightly. Tuck your feet in. And by the way, so this This took a little bit of work, actually, a little bit of time. If this does not feel restful, it's not the right pose, okay? This could be the right pose, okay? Or this could be the right pose. So you decide. There is no big rule book that we're keeping score. Let the practice consolidate. Let your body and your mind kind of join up here and say, oh yeah, we got this. We've done this before. A little bit of muscle memory. Thank yourself. For sure, thank yourself for the practice. Be well, friends. Hope that you know peace inside. I hope that you can spread peace outside. And there we are. Ta-da. So, and the battery held out for me. You're so welcome. And Sue, by the way, there's another one from 2 weeks ago that was kind of like part 1 of this. You can put them together. You don't need to apologize. It's all good. No. You don't do that. I think that's wonderful, but you do that for you. I'm happy to see you as, yeah, don't worry about me. I'm all good. I'm happy to see you, and I'm happy if I don't see you, I'm assuming you're off doing something awesome, and it's all good. All right. Yeah. Oh, right on. Oh, I just lost battery. Sue, I'm sorry. See, I'm still recording on the other camera and everyone else. So if you're seeing this after the fact, I'm sorry my battery did die. I'm glad that your hip felt so... And then the thought was cut off, but I'm going to sense that was good. For everyone else out there, be well. Take care.